Over the past few weeks, Australia has witnessed something deeply unsettling. Demonstrations have erupted in cities like Melbourne and Sydney, not against illegal migration, but against immigration itself. And right at the center of the storm are Indian students and immigrants who came legally, chasing education and opportunities. So what's really going on? Why are legal settlers, especially students, suddenly facing hostility? Are these demonstrations spontaneous, or are they politically motivated? In this video, we'll take a closer look at the Australian protests, break down the political forces behind them, explain why Indian students are being targeted, and what this means for the future of immigration in Australia. 1. The background. To understand these protests, we need to rewind a bit. Australia has long been known as a multicultural society. For decades, it welcomed immigrants from Europe, Asia, and beyond. Today, nearly 30% of Australia's population was born overseas. Indian students, in particular, have surged in numbers. In fact, Indians are now among the largest groups of international students in Australia, contributing billions of dollars to the education economy. But with this growth has come tension. Rising rents, housing shortages, and job competition have made immigration a heated political issue. Instead of addressing structural problems, far-right groups have turned the anger toward immigrants themselves, including those who are studying and working legally. 2. The demonstrations. In late August and early September, thousands took to the streets in what was branded the March for Australia. The protests weren't about illegal migration. They were all about migration. Far-right activists, self-described nationalists, and even neo-Nazi elements gathered, calling for stricter controls and, in some cases, an outright halt to immigration. The marches turned ugly in Melbourne and Sydney. Police were forced to intervene, clashes broke out, and several arrests were made. For Indian students, the message was clear. Despite being legal settlers, paying tuition, rent, and taxes, they were being lumped together as part of the problem. 3. Political motivations. These protests are not spontaneous outbursts, they are politically motivated. Housing crisis. Australia is facing skyrocketing rents and a shortage of affordable housing. Instead of tackling zoning laws and supply issues, politicians and activists point fingers at immigrants. Cost of living pressures, groceries, fuel, and utilities are expensive, and the narrative becomes immigrants are taking too much. Far-right mobilization. Groups with extremist ideologies are using immigration as a rallying cry to build their political base. Indian students, being one of the most visible communities, become easy scapegoats. The protests may appear grassroots, but they're fueled by long-standing political agendas, using fear of outsiders to win influence. 4. Why Indian students are targeted. So why Indian students? There are 3 big reasons. Numbers and visibility. Indians are among the largest student groups in Australia. Their presence is highly visible in major cities like Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. Rapid growth. In the past decade, the Indian population in Australia has grown significantly, not just students, but skilled migrants, PR holders, and families. Stereotypes and scapegoating. Because Indian students often work part-time in industries like retail, hospitality, and rideshare, they are sometimes blamed for taking jobs, even when they're legally allowed to work. The reality? Indian students contribute massively to the Australian economy. They pay international tuition fees, which are often 3 to 4 times higher than domestic students. They boost local businesses, pay rent, and fill skill gaps. Yet despite all this, they're now in the crosshairs of a political storm they didn't create. 5. The human impact. The backlash is not just political, it's personal. Students report feeling unsafe when traveling late at night, being stared at during rallies, or even hearing slurs. Many parents in India are growing anxious, questioning whether Australia is still a safe destination for their children. The irony? These are young people who left home to chase a better education and contribute positively to society. Now, they're caught in the middle of a battle they never signed up for. 6. Responses. Authorities in Australia have condemned violence and made arrests, but the protests show no signs of vanishing. The Indian government has also expressed concern, advising students to remain vigilant and to report incidents to local authorities and Indian missions. At the same time, universities are under pressure to assure international students that campuses remain safe and welcoming. After all, without international students, Australia's higher education sector would collapse financially. 7. What this means for the future. The big question is, what happens next? Australia is walking a fine line. On one hand, it needs immigration to sustain its economy, fill labor shortages, and keep universities funded. On the other hand, populist and far-right groups are pushing back hard, blaming immigrants for the nation's struggles. For Indian students, this means uncertainty. While they're still welcomed officially, socially, they may face more hostility, more protests, and more political scapegoating. What's clear is that the demonstrations are not about legality. They're about fear, fear of change, fear of diversity, and fear of economic pressure. And that fear is being weaponized politically. In the end, these demonstrations are less about Indian students and more about politics. They show how quickly economic frustration can be turned into social division, and how immigrants can become targets even when they are fully legal and contributing members of society. The challenge for Australia is simple yet urgent. Will it choose to confront the real issues, housing, jobs, rising costs, or will it allow political movements to keep scapegoating immigrants? And for Indian students, the message is bittersweet. While your role in Australia is vital, you may also find yourselves on the front lines of a political battle. Stay safe, stay informed, and remember, knowledge is power. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, share this video, and subscribe. For more deep dives into global issues affecting students and immigrants worldwide. See you in the next video.